word audacity, when Mr. Tejumadi or Apostle Tejumadi, I don't know what you call him there, but I would use the word apostle for him over there now. When he reached out to me about this conference, I said to him, that's my team for the year. Most people who know me, they know that I use the catchphrase audacity a lot because I believe that it's everything. It's everything. So in the short time that I have, I would speak on this subject very briefly. I'll do well to make it as practical as possible. And we will have a little bit of interaction. And I'll make it so short, but so precise and yet very powerful. So turn to 3 people around you and say, let's go on this journey. Make sure you turn to 3 people around you. Tell them, let's go on this journey. 3 people, I'm watching you. Oh yeah, you are not doing it. You are the back over there. You are not doing it. Turn to 3 people. Tell them I'm watching you. Okay, fantabulous. By the way, I felt that was so powerful that LSC can also be a center ground for those who are single. So congratulations to the 2 people who got married. You see, that's audacity. Those people are just an embodiment of what we are talking about here. Audacity. It takes some audacity for you to come for a conference and shine your eyes. So maybe that's something for somebody over there. You are closing your eyes and you are coming for a conference. Open your eyes. Audacity has started for you already. Okay. I want to speak on the mentality of the audacious. The mentality of the audacious. But let me start out by showing us something that it's so visible in plain sight. In fact, I must tell you, I best believe that chances are that when you were growing up, you probably did what I'm about to say. And some of you who have kids, you have children, nephew, cousins, you've had the chance to see a child grow, you probably know what I'm about to say. Now let me give you that scenario. Let me paint it to you. Have you ever caught your child or maybe your family friend, whatever child, you caught them at the time they can walk properly, you caught them going to their father's shoe or their mother's shoe, and they remove their own shoes and wear the big shoes, and you see how funny sometimes that is, where their leg fits in just a little into that shoe. But then they keep walking with that shoe, and you are scared that they would fall. They are not scared that they would fall. You see, that's an instinct. You see, sometimes we have to just pay attention to certain instincts and certain internal behavioral things that we see on our inside that I believe that was put there by God. But when you observe that, you see that a little child with no knowledge, in psychology we say that every child comes in a state of tabula rasa, which means it's a clean slate. This child hasn't gone to school. Nobody has lectured this child or anything. Nobody has told this child anything. But this child can see a shoe bigger than his own shoe or own shoe, but decides to fall into that shoe. That tells you that in the innate sense of every single human being, there is an instinct of being audacious. There is something about leaving the comfort zone, something about leaving what we are used to seeing the possibilities of what can become. That's so powerful. Listen, that must tell you something. That you see, if you are not audacious, it's not God's fault, it's your fault. Because you are wired. It's an unbelievable experiment that you are wired to just think differently. You are wired to think differently. And so if you see that in a little child, no education, no school backgrounds, no understanding of any lecturer, no classroom setting, but yet instinctively can think that this shoe that I'm seeing here is bigger than me, but I want to put my legs inside it. So sometimes when people say, oh, it's a big shoe to fill, guess what? You have filled big shoes when you were really young. The problem here is the fear. Now, as a child, you could not comprehend what you can see. But now you've grown older, every slight fear, you can comprehend it as an attraction. And that pauses you from making the movement. But you see, the little child is not thinking about that. He or she is not thinking to herself, would I fall with this shoe? Will I not fall? I remember my daughter used to do this a lot. Once she puts her leg in her mom's shoe and she starts to walk, we remove her away. You have to remove them away. You can take it off. You remove them away. The moment you remove them away, just less than another 4 or 5 minutes, you see them back to another shoe. It's always as though they want to be in a place or put their legs in a place that is way bigger than normal. That is the instinct of being audacious. So, what then is audacity? I wrote it here and I said that audacity is the willingness to take a bold risk and take it. It's the willingness to take a bold risk. Now, why I put it this way is, let me separate that statement into two. The first there is the willingness. Now, we know that you can will, but you might not be doing it. I mean, I'm sure we all wish like having $20 billion in our bank account right now. But it takes something else to be able to do it. But so the definition of audacity is the willingness to take a bold step. So you underline the word willingness. And number two, the boldness to take the bold step and then take it. So it's not only the celebration of the willingness, because you can be willing to do many things that you're never going to do. But you think about it, is there's a willingness on your inside to take that bold step, and then you take it. Number two definition that I put here of audacity, and I'm talking about the mentality of the audacious, and I'm going to get it out in a moment. Number two is having the confidence or courage to do something others are not willing to do. Having the confidence or the courage to do something that others are not willing to do. So let me pause right there in a moment and let me touch on something. You see, I believe without a shadow of doubt that the word fear is the most decorated, unexplainable word in the English vocabulary. And I explain what I mean by that. The word fear gives you an assumption that there is something on the other side that can hurt you. And what happens with the word fear, you see, this is primarily what happens by the reason of your growth, particularly for so many people by childhood. The past experiences has a way of recalibrating your mindset, crystallizing your information. And what happens with that is that when you can even see a line to go in, you are thinking of what if. And that's the ideology. And you see, it's sometimes even more difficult when you come from certain parts of the world, like Nigeria, where, if you have 5 people that are you're in the bus stop, 5 people in the bus stop, you want to enter into a car, and you have just 5 people there, and you have a bus that is empty. The 5 of them will still fight to enter into that bus. They will still fight, quarrel to enter into that bus. Why? Because nobody won't carry last. You see that mindset? It's always a mindset of, I don't want to be the last, the fear of being alone. So you see the track record in everything that we do. There is always that fear track record that starts from growing up. Think about this. You see a mother, maybe from a polygamous family, 5 children, and the mother lives very close, and the mother goes to work maybe at somewhere at Oshodi, for example, and the mother lives at Lekki, let's say phase 1. She has 5 people living in a house, polygamous family. The mother doesn't mind taking that newborn child all the way down to Oshodi. Would not leave that child with a family that could take care of them. Why? Because of the fear of the unknown. That thing right there has been ingrained into our system. But from the onset of creation, it was never really so. That's again, let me take you back to what I said initially about the instinct of what a child would do, just instinctively. Have you noticed that when you have a child, this is very interesting, or you have family friends that cousins that you've lived with, and this happened to probably many of us when we're growing up. You see how there is almost nothing impossible for you to do. You see a remote control up there, and you are willing, you believe you can pick it. What happened to you? What happened to that belief on your inside? And I'm not just talking about this Ashangri belief system that, I can't, yes, we can't. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that wiring that comes naturally with you from birth. This is what people must return back to, that original state, the wiring of impossibility. Number one is that the one who created you and I, listen, guys, think about the whole world and who dares to create the kind of world that we have. That is audacity, boldness. Think about it. It's unbelievable. Somewhere in the world right now, it's morning. Somewhere right now, it's nighttime. Somewhere right now, it's afternoon. If you fly, you see the stars, you see the Jupiter, you see the Pluto, you see the beauty of the world, you see the mountains, you see the oceans, you see the valley. One person says it's possible and created it. One person. It tells us that many times what we are fighting against is not really us. It's not the innate us. What we might be fighting against are actually market forces. Nigeria, we like to use the word market forces a lot. Market forces that determines the economy of a nation. In other words, the systems outside, those things that you have believed too much, that is now affecting the real you that makes you you. And until you go back to that baby-like behavioral pattern, you will never be able to truly emerge the fullness of who you really are. This is the spirit of audacity. I believe without a shadow of doubt that everyone created on the surface of the earth has that spirit inside of them. See, it takes audacity. I'm using a lot of analogies of birth because you guys congratulated me, and so I feel like that might be easier to relate with. But it takes some form of audacity for a baby to come out from the birth canal, to say it's time for me to come out, without knowing the outside world, without knowing what is going on the other side, and comes out. It takes some audacity. If you have been framed to think like that, how come something was taken from your mindset at the age of 25? Who took that from you? You have to go back and recalibrate yourself with the spirit of faith of being audacious. Now, let me say this here. I saw something else one time and I felt that was so powerful. Let me read it right for you. That the dream is free, but making your dream comes true comes at a cost. And that cost is audacity. I say it sometimes. Many of us do not need more prayer time. And there's nothing wrong with prayer, please don't get me wrong. Sometimes many of us require audacity. That's all. Literally, that is all. I remember one time, let me share one story with you. I have so many, too many crazy faith, too many crazy stories about audacity. I remember one time we're trying to get a particular property, and I had gone to the place, and I saw the property, my wife and I, and we felt it was so beautiful. We walked in there, looked at the house, went everywhere, like this is so beautiful. And so we saw the owner of the property, and I told the man, I said, I like this property. The man said, oh, that's sadly, this block is no longer for sale. Somebody has gotten this one and all of that. And I said, oh, I really like it. So he said, oh, we are sorry, somebody has paid for it. We can't have it anymore. So I went back home and I was thinking to myself, I said, this place, because I thought of so many things we could use the place to do. So I got back home, I was lying down, and something just said to me. You see, in life, it's two options. It's either you want it or you want it. Second option, do you want to know? It's either you want it or you want it. That's the two options. Those are the two options in life. And I said to myself, so I entered into my car and drove back to the man. And I said, sir, this is my phone number. I gave him my card. I gave him my phone number. I said, sir, please, in case you change your mind, I said, please call me. We want to have this place. The man said, it's impossible. He said, somebody has paid for it. Giving the person the documents. I believed we are Christians in this place, but let me give you a backstory of what happens, because sometimes when we share some of the stories as Christians, and particularly when we are pastors, we make it sound very, just happened. Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. So let me put a little bit of context to that. When I went to that house, I've always worked with a mindset that whatever I desire, once I see it that it's mine, I can lay claim of it through the laying on of hands. And so that day when I came into that house, I was laying my hands around that house. So let me just put that context to that. So I went to the madam. I said, no, you can't have that house. You can't. I mean, if somebody has paid for it and all of those things. I said, okay, no problem. I gave it my number. I said, I don't need your number. I said, somebody that left. Monday, this was on a Saturday. Monday morning, I was sleeping. I saw a call on my phone. The moment I saw the call on my phone, it was the man's number. The guy said to me, he said, please, who are you? He said, I've never done this in my life before. He said, but from Saturday to today, I could not rest. He said, my wife woke me up and said, give that guy this place. And the guy said, I've never done this before. I'm going to transfer the money back to these people. Please, you have between give me a time frame. Pay for this place. Come and have it. Listen, what is yours is yours the moment you see it. The problem is, if you don't have sightedness, which is vision, you see, to be audacious starts with vision, sightedness. What you see is what you run towards. It's not just a desire to have anything, because sometimes when we say audacity, then you now go and look at the person that they just congratulated, that just got married, and say, congratulations, I have audacity, you are my wife. You know that everywhere we stew right now, everywhere we bust right now in LSC right there. No, why? Because audacity starts from the standpoint of vision. You must be able to see something that others cannot see. From there, you press in and you move into it. Only boldness and audacity can cross the finish line. It takes something more. Now, let me speak about the 5 mentality that you must have to be audacious. 5. All right, talk to somebody beside you, tap them, say it's about time to have 5. Write it down, tell the person, say we want to go on this 5 journey together. So as I say 5, you say with me. You see, I'm trying to interact because I can't see you physically, so you're going to help me. But I can get the vibe, I get the energy. I get the energy from where I am. So let's interact from there. So tap somebody and tell them, we're about to write 5 things down. You ready? Let's go. Okay. 5 mentality of the audacious. Number 1, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Listen, I believe very strongly that many adulthood problems are problems of childhood traumas. I believe so very strongly. And I'll tell you why. You see, I met someone some years ago. This was like 2 years ago. This guy used to be the fastest runner when we were in primary school. Yeah, it's primary 6 and all. Fastest runner. I literally could say that we used to give him different nicknames like Dash. We used to call him Dash. Like, the guy was so fast. 3 years ago, I met him, I think it was in the UK. I met him in the UK and we're just talking because I knew that he started to run and all of those things. And I was having a conversation with him and I was talking to him about his sport, what he does now, athletics and all of that, and he said he doesn't run anymore. I said, what happened? And he started to recount his story for me. What happened to him was that he got to a point in his life that something, and I don't want to share the story because he didn't give me permission to share that, but let me just rephrase it in a way that something happened to him. It was an external effect of family, such an unusual and unexplainable external effect, and that ability in him went down. In fact, he said to me that when he goes and does on your mark, get set, go, he forgets himself. Everybody runs past, until today he doesn't run anymore. Why? Because something inside of him shut something down inside of him. The problem with audacity sometimes is that you must revolt against that thing that is holding you back to becoming yourself. Listen, you must pay the price for your becoming. And what you don't sacrifice for will eventually become the sacrifice. You must pay the price for your becoming. You must look at yourself and say, what are the things inside of me that is stopping my boldness? Is it fear? You have to resist it. So, number one, the mentality of the audacious is nothing is impossible. Nothing. Listen, the only thing that is impossible are the things that you created to become impossible. You know, the other day, I was somewhere and a robot literally came. It's unbelievable what the world is turning into. In the next couple of years, and this is so powerful because this was 2 years ago. I read a Harvard report, and the Harvard report, they said in the next coming years, the most powerful people in the world will have these two character traits. Number one, they will be strong leaders, great leaders. Number two, creative people. And that's a different conversation on its own. But I believe this without a shadow of doubt, that every one of us, God has given us something on our inside that can help us compete in the world. And I say the word, but use the word compete, not in terms of competing with one another, but to have a leverage and an advantage on the earth. This is so powerful and so critical. So I was in that place, and I noticed that the robot came towards me, and I was going to wear new clothes. I wanted to buy clothes, and wore the clothes for me. And so if somebody can think about that there is somebody right now on the earth, Elon Musk, brother Elon Musk, anyway, you know what I mean. There's somebody on the earth right now who is thinking that let's take people to the planet, to the moon, to live there. And they sent out a circular, and people are literally filling forms and willing to go and live in the moon for how many days? That's a human being with a brain. Anything is possible. We must think like that. This is the spirit of audacity. So number two, let me begin to close this up now. Number two is the mentality of the audacious is that you fight any contrary thoughts, any contrary behavioral pattern, and every contrary association that will stop you from believing. You have to fight it. Thoughts are powers. Thoughts, words are powers. They frame your thinking, frame your ways, frame your ideologies. That's why we need to understand that the subconscious is so powerful. The subconscious controls the conscious. There's a powerful saying that if you live your life on the conscious, you will live your life at risk. This is so powerful because sometimes when you are cooking, you know that you are cooking egg, for example, you are thinking about that boyfriend that just broke up with you, you're thinking about that $1 million check that they've asked you to come and collect. And as you are thinking about that, you are cooking. Your mind is thinking about that, but you are cooking. What is cooking that thing? It's your subconscious, because your subconscious has already been programmed to know how to cook. The problem is there are people's subconscious that has been programmed to failure. This is the problem of constant failure. The moment you fail once, you must recalibrate that thinking right so that the failure of the past doesn't become the failure of the future. Because the failure of the past, it's like a hard drive that creates a system on your mind that makes you feel like you always fail. And it enters into subconscious, it controls the subconscious, and then it becomes who you are in that subconscious. This is so critical. This is so powerful. Number three, the mentality of the audacious. Whatever you think you want to do, do it in the right time. Do it in the right time. I can speak for too long on this one. Time is life, and life is time. The whole world is framed by timing. Even when it comes to audacity, it's a timing to do it. Remember the story of David. When David got to a place, and let me just say this. This is one thing about the believers, and let me land this here. That there are three faculties that must be in operation in your life, even if you are the most spiritual person. Number one, your heart, your head, and your hands. Your heart, your head, and your hands. These three would work together for your advantage. You see, if you have the right heart, You're very spiritual. That's how you seem, and I say this very, you can be very spiritual, but nothing to show for it physically. You are too spiritually high, earthly irrelevant. Why? Because your heart is right, but your head is not, pardon my use of words, but your head is not correct. And I explain what I mean by that. It means that your heart is good. Your heart can be good towards God. Your head is not comprehending things properly. That head that is telling you, listen, we're going to go for that thing and we're going to get it. Now, your head can believe it, but your hand must put it to work to see the manifestation of it in your life. This is how the equation comes together to really recalibrate yourself to become audacious. I'll give an example. In our business at Creation Republic, when we started Creation Republic, as a business owner, I have 2 businesses that I do, and God has really helped us with those 2 businesses. Now, what I determined from the scratch was that I didn't want to work with certain kinds of clients. I said to myself, I wanted to work with multinationals, only multinationals. Even though in the initial phase that was not the case. We didn't start out like that. But after some time, I made a painful decision. I remember there was one time, and please don't try this at home until you have convictions to do it. I remember there was one time somebody came to me and said, oh, there's a business that I wanted to do of 500,000 naira and all of that to recalibrate some logos and change some designs and things like that. And I told the person that, I'm not interested in doing it. I don't want to do it. And at that time, I needed the money. But I was trying to recalibrate. Now, don't try this at home until you have to calibrate the convictions for it, because sometimes you might just have to collect that money and then recalibrate and recreate your convictions going forward from there. But I said to myself, I'm not going to do that. And I put a mark there, and I started going after the top businesses. People that will give you PO, they might not pay you 3 months, but when you collect the money, you shout hallelujah 10 times. You see that? That right there is for you to think with your head and your hands going for it. And so your heart can be right, but your head is the one disturbing your hands from getting the results in your life. Number 4, mentality of an audacious person is that they don't give up. They don't give up. Listen, there will be many times you'll be audacious and you'll fail. I'm sure many people who spoke earlier spoke about that. You will be audacious. You will say you will get it done. You will do it. The problem with daring things is that, and this has happened to you before, I'm sure some of you who don't like to fly, or you do all of this, I can't remember what those words are, those things, those, what we call Jangorova in Nigeria, and you go on those things. And when you come back, like, oh, I'm never going to go back there again. Or you go to the waters and you get, drowned and something like that, and somebody helps you out and say, I'm never going back there again. The problem when we make absolute statements is that we circumcise our hearts from trying again. When you make absolute statements from one experience, you circumcise your heart, ultimately never to go there again. So you have to say to yourself, no matter the failure, it won't stop me. Audacity. Finally, what do you see? Every audacious person is saying something. You have to see for you to have in your hands. If you're driving a car in the middle of the night, 2 people are driving a car. One is driving a Jaguar or a Rolls Royce. Another one is driving a BMW, or let me say a Dewu Racer. I don't know, that old car. Some of you might know it. A Dewu Racer car in the middle of the night. The Rolls Royce is a 2024 model Rolls Royce. Beautiful Rolls Royce. New tear-rubber Rolls Royce. The Dewu Racer car is a 1982 car. Bad, but it's not, it's old model. The interiors are, bad. Nothing is right. However, in the thick middle of the night, the Dewu Racer has a floodlight, or the lamp, the halogen light, or the rear light is working so perfectly, but the Rolls Royce light is bad, who will get there faster? Absolutely the devil racer. Even though the Rolls Royce is more sophisticated, more fine, more beautiful, everything, but the distinguishing factor in the night is not the beauty of the car. It's the beauty or the intelligence of the depth of light that you have. When it comes to audacity, to take steps, the 4 lepers said to themselves, why sit we here until we die? If we sit here, we die. If we go, we die. Man can die, only one die. Now only one die. Let's go and die in that place. Then you truly realize that die that you think you're about to die is actually to live again. This is the power of audacity. And so today, I want to encourage you and I want to invite you for the newness, even as the church, let me use that. I think it's a mentality we need to come into of being audacious. People are waiting too long in the pew doing nothing, waiting for timing. Listen, there is something about timing, and I believe that. But sometimes you have to create that timing. You have to make a seat for yourself on the table and tear the walls down and go after it for yourself. And that's when you can see that all this while, what you were truly waiting for while seated was waiting for you on the other side while standing. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you got 1 or 2 things there. So at the count of 3, we're going to shout audacity 3 times together in that auditorium, and I want every one of us to shout it 3 times, and I will make the cue to it. Are we ready? We're going to shout audacity, and I want to hear it all the way where I am right now, right here. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, go. Audacity, audacity, audacity. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you, Pastor Wale, for having me as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you so very much.